Hello and welcome to another tutorial. We are going to continue our discussion on the Eclipse IDE external tool, and we were talking about the internal variables that Eclipse IDE has, and we mentioned that the way this works is that you put the name in the curly braces with the dollar sign, right? Dollar reminds you of environment variables, and these are like internal environment variables that Eclipse understands, and these are work based on exact string substitution. So for example, if I say dollar and then curly braces the name of the environment variable and then forward slash some other string, this part that has this environment variable at runtime will be substituted with the actual value, right? And the main benefit is that these are the value of these environment variables can change based on for example, what happens. And one of the things that I showed you in the previous lecture was, for example, resource location. We said that if you want to have an environment variable, an expression that changes the value based on the files that you select in the tree view of the Eclipse, then you can use this environment variable, which is resource location or resource name, right? So these are the most important variables. I want to just quickly go through them. Java type name, this is very, very important. Most of the tools that, for example, Java or the Java JVM, Java command, or the native image command, any tool that works on the class files, which is the fully qualified name of the class if it's inside a package, you have to use the Java type name. So Java type name returns the fully qualified Java type name of the primary type in the selected resource. I'm going to change this actually Java class name of the primary type in the selected resource. As we know that when Eclipse IDE compiles your application, the way it organizes your Java project is that it has a source directory, SRC, and then a bin directory. And the bin is a mirror of your SRC. SRC has all the .java files or source files, and then bin is a mirror which has all the compiled file, which is .class, right? And then Eclipse internally is aware of the class path, all the dependencies of your Java project, and we know that dependencies have to be on the class path at the compile time if they are explicit dependency, because Java compiler requires that all the dependencies be declared. The only exception is that Java also allows dynamic class loading. You use the class for name, for example, and then you pass a string. Those things, those dependencies, those dynamic class loading, they are not checked by the Java compiler at compile time because it doesn't know how to do it, right? So those dependencies, the check for them are deferred to runtime. And if JVM at runtime cannot find those specific dependencies, then it throws something like class not found error or class def error, something like that. So Java type name is very important because any tool that works on the basically class files that requires that you feed it a class file, you have to use the Java type name. So let's head to Eclipse. Here in our Java projects, I am going to create now a new package. Let's say Java native image, the name of the project, and we're going to create a class file. So test class, right? And let's have a main method here, that's fine. And then Eclipse gives us this, and then sysout, and then hello world. Right? So if I run this, remember, as soon as you save this, Java source Eclipse compiler actually compiles and creates a class file. So in the package explorer, you don't see the bin directory. So the bin is hidden. You only see the Java files and the resource files, any other directory that is not a package, that is not in the SRC. And then just remember how we distinguish between a package, which means a package means it contains files that are part of the class path. So, and then the Java source files in the package get compiled. That's a way of telling the Java compiler, hey, compile this file because it's inside this package, right? But if you have a regular directory that is not a package, then Java compiler, Eclipse's compiler, doesn't really consider them for compilation. They are not part of the class path, right? So that's how we distinguish packages and etc. Now if we look at go to the navigator and look at our bin directory, you see there is a bin directory that mirrors the hierarchy of the SRC or source directory. It also has a directory which corresponds to our package, and then inside it has the compiled version of the source file, right? In the package here in the src, we have the source file, and here we have the class file. And again, Eclipse compiler is very fast. Right now, if I drag and drop this class file into the editor, I've configured it to decompile it. We can operate with the class file viewer to just see the basically the bytecodes. And as you can see, the name of the type is the fully qualified name because this class is inside the package. And it also has a comment of basically which version of the JDK was used. As you can see, I've set up my Java project to use JDK 17. All right. Okay, now we want to see, I want to select a resource, a source file in the tree. Remember, source file. But then I want to use the environment variable of the Eclipse that returns the fully qualified name of the class file. So in the previous lecture, we create this dummy external tool, which is just the ls, for example. We set the working directory to the project location, and then actually, I'm going to change this. Let's see if we can change this to echo. Let's see. Actually, this gives an error, I believe. Let's go back quickly to the terminal. Which echo? I think echo is in the bin. All right, let's get the bin. All right, and then working directory, doesn't matter, project location. Now, if you want to access the bin, we know that all the packages are in the bin folder. There are all the classes, and all the packages translate or mapped in a directory, right? So the working directory, you set it to, you can set it different ways. You have to set it to the bin directory of your Java project, right? So we want to say that, for example, we can use the project location, or you can start either from the workspace or the project location, right? And this returns the absolute file system path. And then here I can say /bin. Okay, so this runs this command in the bin. And then arguments, we're going to say that Java type name, right? Java type name. And this returns the fully qualified, the class file, the name of the class. Even though you select, for example, the source file, testclass.java, it returns a fully qualified. And we can also see the command line here, bin echo Java native image. So right now I selected this testclass.java. So it says bin echo, and then Java type name gets translated into the fully qualified name of this class, which is the package.the class name, right? Again, this is very important. Java type name is very important. And whenever you want to use it, because the fully qualified name is with respect to the top level of your class path, which is the bin directory. That's how Eclipse organizes your class files, right? When it compiles them. Later on, when we use Maven, for example, you will see that you have to point it to the directory that Maven, after compilation, puts all the class files. So close. Let's run this. And it just prints the Java native image test class, right? So whatever class file that I select, let's say test class 2, for example, let's have a main method. It doesn't matter. If I select this, as soon as basically it's already saved, so Eclipse already compiled this source file and the class file is there. If I select this one and run my external tool, it's going to print the fully qualified name of this class, right? I'm running an external tool, which is the echo tool. Now, if I don't set this to the bin directory, let's see what happens. And now it cannot find it, right? So variable reference empty selection, something like that. Let's try to run this again. Oh, it still works, yeah. So the Java type name works. I mean, you don't need to really point this echo command to the bin directory, right? But let's say now you actually want to use an external tool. Let's say you want to use a different JVM, right? So let's go to I think it's a library Java virtual machines. We can browse the file system. So let's go to library, and then Java virtual machines, and then let's say we were running with JDK 17. One way to run with a different JVM is to use an external tool, which is not recommended. I mean, there are better ways to do it in Eclipse IDE. So let's say we want to run with JDK 18, right? Contents, home, and then bin, and our JVM is the Java command, right? So we are running with the JDK 18. We have to point it to the bin directory and the Java type name, right? And the Java type name is supposed to have the main method, right? So if we apply close, let's say we run this. So if I run my external tool and could not find our main class, let's see, why is that? So we're running Java, and then working directory is bin. So we are running from bin. Now again, the problem is with the class path, right? So -cp here, for example. Let's see if this works. Yes, now it works. So we had to tell it manually to set the class path to the working directory, this dot. And then this dot now points to the working directory when you run this JDK 18 JVM. And the working directory, we already set it to bin, which is correct because class files are the class path. The way Eclipse organizes your project is that the top level directory in your class path is bin directory, and all the packages, fully qualified name, are with respect to this bin directory. So this is one way to run basically with a different JVM, right? Right now, if I run with Eclipse run command, it runs with let's select this test class, run hello world. Yeah, so it runs with the internal configuration here in Eclipse, which is JDK or JVM 17 or Java runtime 17. If I run this with the external tool, it is going to run with the JDK 18, right? You see here. Now I can actually prove it to you because we already know that the Java has the runtime, so we can check the runtime version inside our Java source file. So what we can do, we can say runtime is runtime get runtime, right? So basically this is a singleton, right? And then we can do a sysout runtime dot basically version. Let's see, runtime dot version. It's a static method, so we could just run it actually on the runtime class itself. So if you run this with the internal of JVM, it says that it's 17, right? LTS. So we are running with the JVM or Java runtime 17. Actually, let's do a string Java or JVM runtime %s, or we can just add it, so plus runtime.get version or version. So if you run this, we're running with the Java 17. If we use the internal run of the Eclipse, because Eclipse looks at the configuration for this project, and right now it's JDK 17, right? So the JRE system library that we assigned to this project is 17. But now if I select this class or source file and then run my external tool, it's going to run with the JVM 18. Okay, so again, I want to understand one way, which is not recommended, but that's one way to run with different JVMs. You can define external tools, and the JVM command, the external tool, obviously is the Java tool. We've seen this. Java is the external tool in the bin directory of the JDK. And then the way you configure it, first of all, you have to set the working directory to the bin directory of the Eclipse project, because that's how Eclipse organizes your class files after compilation. Inside the bin directory, there are also all the directories that point to the packages, and inside the packages there are all the basically all the class files. And then you have to tell the Java, hey, the class file -cp is here. Or you can manually actually set it also to, you can manually copy and paste this value, project location bin, to here, right? You have to tell the Java the class path is the bin directory. And then a Java type name. And this returns the fully qualified name of the class file, because we know that the JVM operates on the class files, not the source files. All right? So this works this one way. Now, one interesting thing is that if you create any file, anything inside a package, Eclipse actually copies that file also in the bin directory in the same folder, because now this file is considered a resource, right? Let's call it resource.txt. And then if I go and look at my bin directory, you see that was copied also in the bin directory. Again, anything that is in the packages in the src will be mirrored in the bin directory as well, just because anything in a package is considered a resource for your Java project, right? Whereas anything in these directories, you see none of these directories that are not packaged are copied to my bin directory. All right, so that's one thing. Let's go back and look at the other basically environment variables. So Java type name, again, it's a class name, class file, right? Fully qualified name of the class. Project class path, this is the second most important thing, right? Returns the resolved class path of a project. A project name can be provided as an argument. If no argument is provided, the target project is the project of the selected resource. So what this means is, if I go back to Eclipse, we can look at the class path. Let's say I want to know what is the class path for any resource that I select. Obviously, those resources have to be in the src, and that src is inside some Java project, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to say /bin echo. It just echoes to the terminal, echoes whatever the string is back. Working directory doesn't really matter. And then I'm going to say that project class path. All right, so apply and then close. Now, if I use any of these source files, anything here, even anything that is not inside a src, inside a package, because project class path looks what kind of directory or file you select, and then figures out what is the Java project for that, and then it prints the class path of that Java project. So if I run my dummy, it's going to tell me that basically the class path is bin directory of the Java native image, and then the bin directory of another project. The reason is that if I look at the, actually if you right click and then build path, configure build path, I have given let's see Java build path and then project references. I have the basically, let's see. So the project nature is project references is dev Java. So I have given this Java native image a dependency, right? So in Eclipse, one project can depend on the other project, and Eclipse knows that. What it means is that Eclipse adds the bin directory of the other project to the class path of this current project. So if I uncheck this, so I don't have any dependency on the other project. If I select anything here, any file, and then run my external tool, it tells me, well, it still shows the so let's see, why is it that still showing the Java editor, Java compiler, Java, okay. Yeah, so it still shows that, but now we're looking at the full class path of our Java project, right? Now we know that even in the source file, we can look at the class path of our project. So let's do a sysout. Let's add some separator, and then a string s is system.getProperty, and the property for the class path is java.class.path, and then sysout s. So if we run this, it tells me that there are two directories on the class path, right? If I run my external tool, it tells me the same thing, right? So that project class path, Eclipse, again, inside the Eclipse, it's smart enough to know that whatever file you select which belongs to a Java project, Eclipse is already aware what the class path configuration is for that project. And this will come very handy when we try to configure an external tool to run native image and compile our Java applications to native executable binary. Now, I mean, I guess you at the moment you have a good idea of where I'm going with this, right? For the native image, when we ran from the terminal, we needed two very important piece of information. One is which class we want to compile, which basically a class that has the main method, right? That's the entry point to our application. And inside a Java project, you can have multiple classes that have main method, right? So if I want to configure a single external tool that tells the native image, hey, this class is the one that has the main method, I want to select a class and then and let the external tool to automatically figure out that that class is the one that has the main method. So we use the Java type name for that. The other important piece of information that we have to give to the native image is the class path of the project, because native image also needs to know all the dependencies of that your Java project, right? Java application, so that it compiles all those class files to native executable binary. And these two pieces of information we've already seen. And then the next one is the working directory, right? And again, you have to give the native image the class files. And in order to do that, you have to set working directory in Eclipse to the bin directory, right? All right, so let's go back and quickly go through the other ones. Project name, this returns, if you select any file in the tree, project name returns the name of the Java project that file belongs to. Project location returns the absolute file system path to the project, that whatever file you select in the tree, the project location. Project path, okay, so there is a difference between location and path. Path means relative to the workspace relative path of a resource project. Location means the absolute file system path, right? So they distinguish between these two in the environment variables of the Eclipse, because that's sometimes you want to only look at the relative path to the workspace, or sometimes you want to get the absolute path, right? Again, same thing here. Resource location is the absolute path to whatever file you select in the tree view. Resource name, it just returns the name of the file that you select. Resource path returns the relative path of the file that you select in the tree with respect to the workspace. And workspace location, obviously this returns the absolute file system path of the workspace, right? Again, Eclipse, whenever you want to run Eclipse, you have to select a directory, which is your workspace. All the Java projects are organized inside that directory. So I hope you enjoyed this lecture, and please stay tuned. I'll see you in the next one.